Welcome back to the M3 podcast. Frank, podcast number 3. We've done one on the M3 podcast, one on What You Say. Now this is going to drop on both platforms.
There you go.
So
There you go.
we got a lot to talk about.
18 months of podcasting, about 72 episodes. You know what? You asked me that question, and now it's going to bother me, Dane.
You're one to math out and make sure we have an accurate answer.
Let me look.
See, as M3 podcast, we're at 170 something right now. And we dropped every Monday for 3+ years, coming up on 4. So it's a grind. I think a lot of people discount how much work goes into it, and I have people come my way all the time. They're like, I'm going to start a podcast, and they just think it's like some easy task. And I'm like, if you're going to have people on a podcast and you're going to be setting it up and the whole nine, the investment side into it, the editing, the cutting the reels, the distribution, there's just a lot that goes into it.
Exactly 72.
You're right on the money.
This would be number 73. I need to start putting that episode.
Yeah. We'll tell old Xavier get that.
It is a pain in the ass, though, to do it.
It is.
I love doing it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to gain traction, and once a week's probably not enough. But
the crazy thing too is when we talk about traction on a podcast, and this is something that it took me probably 30, 40 episodes in to like kind of realize. Most of the time you're trying to correlate the view count, the listen time, the downloads to what you're accustomed to seeing on social. So you're trying to compare an hour-long podcast to a 30-second clip.
Can't do it.
So if you get 250 views, and you go watch your duration, you held 250 people for an hour.
It's a lot.
That's what, most people that can do that get paid to speak in front of people. If you think about it that way, they do.
And I'm doing that.
Yeah,
I think, because I don't know what operationally defines a view, but when you told me that we get around 3,000 views a week, I was like,
yeah. So you look at that, and a lot of times it's probably
10 minutes.
Well, you're going to have probably 25% that's hard, listening all the way through on downloads. So, and that's also when those are compounding, you know that the episodes are doing well because people are coming back and listening again.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I do like about podcasting too, is I'll have meetings where people will come into the sales office and they're like, man, I've listened to 20 of your podcasts. I'm like, this person's listened to me for 20 plus hours.
Here, I've had, and this isn't a lot of people, but probably 4 people come up to me and tell me, hey, I love your podcast, and I don't have any idea who they are.
I had a dude at Quick Trip in Liberty. He comes in, he goes, I know you. And I'm like, I was like, what's up, dude? And he's like, you were on Frank Termini's podcast. I was.
Yeah, I was at the Morgan Wallen concert, and some lady came up to me, and I'm like, what the hell? My wife goes, who was that? I go, I don't know who she was, but she listens to the podcast. That's not, 4 people, that's nothing. But
those numbers compound, because I remember the first time, it was probably 2 years ago. I was out in public and somebody came up and they were like, I listened to the podcast, and I was like, that was wild. And then then it started happening more and more, and it happens daily now.
Yeah, if you can capture, because here, the couple weeks that I missed, I'd have people calling me, hey, where's the podcast this week? You know what I mean? So they're anticipating, and they've got my cadence now, so they know it's going to come out every single Friday. You know what I mean? And so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that there's no pattern to the guests has played in my favor, because they're wondering, what am I going to get this week?
Which I think sometimes there's certain podcasts that people buy into, whoever the host is of that podcast, and people buy into that person just of whatever they're talking about. They like how they navigate conversations. They like what they talk about. They have similar interests. And then you have some podcasts that are just so niched down into a market.
And there's a benefit to that too.
There's a benefit to both of them.
Yeah. Because there's that one guy, that track coach that does that podcast, Feed the Cats. Mm-hmm. I love listening to that. It's all about fitness and how to train athletes. And that he breaks that type of stuff down. And then there's, the Joe Rogans of the world or the Lex Friedmans of the world that you just never know what the hell's going to be on there. And so that's always nice to watch too. But I think to have the niche is good because now let's think you'd be a destination place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to go like Cascones is a destination place. When you leave the house, you're going to Cascones to eat.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're going down to the plaza, those aren't necessarily always destination places. You could be down the plaza and say, let's try Capitol. Let's try McCormick and Schmidt. Let's try Kona Grill, right? Because there's all these different places around.
Yeah.
And so, so those niche podcasts, I think, are similar to the Cascones of the world. They know what they're getting, and they know that's where they're going for their.
Which, it's. I see some people create podcasts and they just want to talk about their industry all the time. That's what they.
I'd be bored to fucking death, bro.
Dude, and I'm just like I'm a talker. I enjoy like networking with people. That's just what I live for. And it's like I enjoy hearing people's story and what makes them tick. And it's just like that's always been a driver for me.
Yeah.
And
if I had to talk about physical therapy every podcast, I'd lose my damn mind.
If I had to talk about marketing, and a lot of times, even on the marketing side. You turn into a broken record, and it's the people that do it. They understand that, and you're supposed to be a broken record. But you have new audiences all the time, and people are always coming back. Some aren't, and it's like you're always feeding into whatever current market's deeming that it needs. And it's like that's fine. And it's like I talk about that with clients that like want to go that in depth on marketing, but it's also 9 out of 10 of the business owners we sit with ultimately just want to grow their business, and there's. Instead of pigeonholing them into saying this is what you pay for right here, it's setting more of a parameter. It's like, hey, this is the outline of what we're going to have, and as we're moving forward, let's watch what's working, what's not working, reallocate funds this direction. Like ultimately, if your business is moving forward, that's why we've never had to run contracts. That's why we don't lose clients. Like as simple as that.
At the end of the day, if you produce results, you don't have it, and you can objectively show the client. This is where your money went, and this is what your money bought you. You can't lose.
Yeah, and it's
you can't lose.
In today's world, it is a little. I'm gonna say it's a little different when it comes to marketing, in the fact that what we started learning when we got big clientele was there's a market for buying market share. So there's a spot where most of our content that we put out is never to sell someone. We're just taking market share that's free to take. Every marketing company out there is trying to sell people marketing.
So they're not necessarily looking at a bottom line for all of them, the big clients.
Yeah, so the big clients are looking at it as like, and I mean, we talked to some people that are like, we'll sell inventory at a $2,000 to $3,000 loss all day, every day to take market share for the next 5 years. We don't need profitability on that because we have these other pieces of the business. Like you look at a Nebraska Furniture Mart. Like I have a buddy that has a mattress store, and like when I talked to him the first time, and he goes, yeah, whatever we do, he goes, you never go after Nebraska on their pricing because they have so many other entities that drive into it. There was a guy that went after that he'll beat any Nebraska Furniture Mart price on a mattress.
He'll get crucified.
So Nebraska pretty much dropped all their stuff at 50% of invoice to where nobody could touch them on a price. And then they just let the small people just bleed out until they went away, and then they elevated the prices back up. So they just took the market share because they could, and financially they can.
And then they offer that 18-month interest-free finance.
But there's other people that can get the financing, they can get those kind of options. But like you take an item that's $1,000 and you're buying 100 of these at a time, and you're spending $100,000 to buy these, and you have inventory, and you don't have just hundreds of millions of dollars backing you. And then you're like, I'm going to go after that guy over there. And this guy's selling everything under the moon. And you're just selling these tables. And you go try to compete with him on tables. And he goes, you know what? I'll just sell mine at $500 a piece. And you're like, how's he doing that? Like, and the small business owner is always like, whoa, that doesn't make sense. Like, yeah, their game is different. They're playing a different game than you.
They're playing chess.
Yeah. And it's like,
playing checkers.
It happens all the time. And I see these business owners. I'm like, if you want to compete at that level, you have to understand how the game's played. And I'm like, the amount of money I spend in marketing just to buy market share that I know is not going to pay off for another 12 to 18 to 24 months, That's what the podcast is. That's what all the taco reviews, that's what all these different things that we do isn't to acquire the business today. It's for 12 to 18 months when there's those other companies can't go take that market share.
Right.
So it's just I look at it, you get around big business players. That's how they operate. So I just started thinking, I'm like, even though I'm not to that level, I'm going to play the game the same.
Well, and the big player has the capital to wait.
Yeah.
The small guy needs money now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I've been the small guy. I am small. I mean, I was the small guy for 12 years. And the small guy can't sit there and wait and absorb a whole lot of glitches. Like, I remember one year, Medicare decided, hey, we're not going to pay anybody for Q1. Fucking, I don't even know why. They just weren't going to pay anyone for Q1. Okay, well, Cirque and Select and, Athletico, they were like, probably, all right, well, that sucks, right? But we'll be fine. I fucking had to go take a loan.
Yeah.
That was 25% of my business that wasn't going to pay me. And I still had to pay people's insurance and pay people's salary and pay taxes and all the other bullshit, And yeah. I'm like, at the end of the day, it was just so hard to build up your operating account to where you would be able to sustain stuff like that. Because here, the IRS was your fucking partner the whole time too. That's a problem,
Yeah.
And at the time, I would have people leave me because they could go to those big players and the cost of their insurance was cheaper than mine was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, and not only was it cheaper, but they'd have better options on deductibles and co-insurances, and it was better plans for cheaper. I bet I had 5 employees leave me because of health insurance to go to bigger companies.
And I think sometimes you have some of these businesses that when they scale up, there's different levels of business, and when you start getting into bringing up the IRS, there comes to a level of business that you get to that now you're playing a tax game. You step into a whole different realm that it's like, are you just going to offload 40% of your income all the time to taxes, or are you going to learn how to play the game?
You have to hire someone to teach you.
Yeah, and it's like getting the right people, sitting at the right tables, because you're going to sit at tables.
And you got to find the right accountant.
Yep.
Because the accountant that does textbook taxes will fuck you to death.
Yeah. And it's like...
Because you'll pay 40%.
You're going to pay 40%. You're just going to be offloading that all the time. And I have people, like, there's a reason I buy the vehicles I buy. There's a reason that I do what I do on spending money. And the small business owner that doesn't understand the game is like, oh, they're being flashy. They're just spending money. I'm like, go get in the right rooms. I'm like, ultimately, I like that. Those are such big tickets that alleviate such a huge tax break for me that, okay, I'd way rather have the vehicles than just write the check off to the government.
Sure.
Ultimately, you can depreciate them. You have to get out of the short-term capital gains. You're still going to have capital gains on them. So ultimately, you get to where if you're buying the right vehicles and they're high enough price, you can get to where you almost wash them out. Like, but people don't understand that. Well,
here, the entrepreneur, it's just a different thought process. So the entrepreneur, the thought of going in and punching a clock, they'd rather cut their fucking throat. At least I fucking would.
Yeah.
I mean, the thought of doing that in perpetuity sounds absolutely miserable to me.
Yeah.
And so the whole entire thought process is just totally different. Plus, someone else looking from the outside in, they're also probably pretty risk adverse too, Dane. Right?
Yeah.
And so they're not going to take these shots, right? Because they're looking at it like, well, what if the IRS catches you? Well, you're not doing anything illegal.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to, we're not talking about that. We're talking about taking advantage of the rules that are put in place.
Yeah. And that's ultimately like just understanding how to play. Right. Like, it's like playing chess and not understanding how any of the pieces on the back line work.
It's like Steinbrenner saying, oh, paying all that money for your players is illegal. You're buying championships. Well, there's no rule that he can't do it.
Yeah.
You could disagree with it, whatever you want to do. I don't even know if he's the owner of the Yankees anymore. He might not be, but that's what his payroll was bigger than anyone else's in Major League Baseball, and they were in the playoffs and some in the World Series for how many years, and everybody would.
And correlating business to sports, the wild thing is, like, you go into a business, ultimately you're drafting players all the time. You're putting people on the walls that you want the best talent, but people want all this A-level talent, but they want to pay a C-level wage.
Right.
So if you want A-level talent, pay for A-level talent.
And he did it.
So it's the same thing. It's like when people come here, they're like, what's your recipe for winning? I'm like, pay people. Find A-level talent and fucking pay them.
Right.
If you do that, you can build an empire.
Yeah.
Like,
look at. Okay, I say this all the time. The movie The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Everybody gets locked into the dope and the sex and all the fucking degenerate shit that guy did, which was great. Yeah. I mean,
they made a movie about him, so it was the story was worth writing.
Which was fantastic. It was a great movie. But if you dive in to what Jordan Belfort did, even through all that degeneracy, he educated, he motivated, and he delegated. Okay, and that's how he did what he did, and he was able to turn those group of degenerates into millionaires.
Yeah,
I mean, and you have to be able to do that. You have to find the right person. The right person has to be motivated by money, in my opinion.
So I thought that way for a long time. My dad's generation, I watched this mortgage world around me of these guys that were just always motivated by money. That's just how I thought it always was. And that's one thing that I will say that my dad and I talk a lot about. They said this like new generation of hiring. That he's like, I'm not finding these just money motivated people.
They're not. Millennials are not motivated by money.
So I told him,
Gen Zers, they're not motivated. I don't know what. Here, I got to be honest with you, Dane. That's one of the biggest reasons why I sold my business. Because I'm like, if I can't motivate you by money, I don't know how to motivate you.
So that's where I've reconstructed what our business model looks like here. And it's, I can find A players, I can pay the A players, but it's also what makes that person tick and what are they looking for? What does success look like to them? Because there's a lot of people you look at, and I think how up until a recent time, majority of the idea of what success was always driven from a financial state. So most of the time, somebody sees the Range Rover, they see all that stuff, and they're like, hey, you're successful. I was like, all that shit could be gone tomorrow. That's not what I judge my success on at all. I focus on how I become a better husband every single day, how I become a better brother every day, how I become a better son every day. Those are things that I focus on becoming great at. And it's this new generation that when I help them move forward in life, in those aspects, and how I show them a pathway to owning their time and freedom, because ultimately most entrepreneurs end up in the entrepreneurial space for freedom.
And then you end up not really being free.
So I'm going to say the front side of business, 4 years of it, I changed from one prison to another prison. So at least this prison number 2, I was the head honcho of my own prison.
You were the warden.
I was the warden of the place. So I feel like I was in a better prison than the first one, but I still was, I worked more than I ever had. And this is the first time though that I got around the right people, learned the right things, and like, I own my time now.
So I agree with you 110% in your order of operations, and I agree that order affects outcome. And I believe, here, God's first, your wife is second, your kids are third, and everyone else comes after that. But people, and particularly the younger generation, gets incredibly squirmy when you talk about money and wanting financial gain. And what I'm trying to say is there is nothing wrong with wanting that.
So I try to normalize it where we speak about finances all the time, because I'll ask new people that start, I go, what do you have in a savings account at home? Like, do you have something like some sort of, because most, the younger generation is living paycheck to paycheck worse than ever before.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one, because the school system, you have somebody that doesn't know how to run their finances trying to teach them finances that has never had any money. So all they're teaching you is some shit that they read out of a book.
Right.
And I'm like, you know who will give you the best advice in finances, the people that do it, the people that have money,
Right.
the people that actively, if I'm going to put up my money to do it, that's like the people that give advice on stocks that they don't have $1 in a stock.
Right.
I've had people like, you should buy this. I'm like, how much you have in it? If you tell me to buy something, you tell me you got $1 million in it, I will buy it right now, and I'll buy a lot of it. You tell me to buy something, you don't have $1 in it, yeah, I have a lot of faith in it.
Right.
I'm gonna be like, well,
Here, as far as finance is concerned, I like Dave Ramsey.
So I go back and forth. I think he has things that are accurate, but he also the pitch that he has, and I haven't went super deep in this, and this can get very polarizing very quick, because he goes to help people that have a set income year over year. I feel like he's really good for those people. You say you make $90,000 a year, this is what your take home always is. I think Dave Ramsey's a great person. I don't think you should be taking any debt on. You don't have a way out of that hole if you do dig it. Entrepreneurial space, like, and people that do have a difference is like, I will go out and I'll bet everything on it, which Dave Ramsey would totally disagree with.
I know a lot of multimillionaires that do not follow Dave Ramsey. They follow the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
So that's my thing is I look at money.
What's his name? What's that guy's name?
Robert Kiyoswami or something.
Yeah, and he makes money off of his debt.
So like my thing is, I mean, out of everybody in MMG, I hold the most debt of anybody here. But I'm not. That's also how I've leveraged to do this.
Right.
But my debt is very easily payable through the company, and it's given me freedom. That ultimately, that's what we're looking for is freedom. So if you can figure out, like, money is it's a piece of paper. If we put $100,000 here on the table, we could light it on fire and it'd be gone. Does that change either one of our lives in any way, shape, or form? Somebody walks in here, briefcase, $100,000, throws it on the table, we light it on fire, walks out. It was money we didn't have before. It's money we still don't have. But people let that dictate their world. You know how many people would watch that burn and then they would go out and it would ruin their whole day?
Right.
It would ruin weeks for them. It would ruin their mindset. Would be like, I almost had $100,000, but it was burned in front of me. I was this close. Like, to me, I don't care. It's like, figure out, like, you start figuring out percentages of money. You start figuring out what you can borrow money at and how to leverage it and how to make more money. Like, that's becoming the financial literacy of our world right now is so low that the people that figure it out, I know guys that are millionaires that don't do anything except for just leverage money.
No, they're out there.
And they're out on beaches and they're out running around Ferraris and everything else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they just understand how to leverage money. And then everyone else is like, they got some bullshit to say, like, oh, he has to sell drugs or something. I'm like, or he's just a lot smarter with money. And where you were watching Netflix at night, that person was educating themselves.
Yeah.
That's my biggest fucking pet peeve in this world is I have business owners that come in and they will, I don't have enough time. I just never have the time. Like, and you want to ask all the MMG staff what will fucking put me over the edge quick is telling me you don't have time for something, and then you follow up in that conversation with a new Netflix show that you're watching. You're not prioritizing your time.
Right.
I move at a very, very fast click, but I listen to 1 to 2 Audible books every week. I read when I go to sleep. So my education movement of what's happening, the man I am today to the man I was 6 months ago, I don't even recognize that guy from 6 months ago.
Right.
And 6 months from now, I'm not going to recognize who I am today.
Matthew McConaughey, who I think is brilliant, says,
Yes.
I think he's brilliant. And he said you have to have something to look up to, something to look forward to, and something to chase. And he chases his future self.
So I say that when I heard that, it's something I've said on so many podcasts that, like, I can't wait to meet that guy 5 years from now. Like, I'm 30 right now. That 35-year-old Dane,
Right.
that dude's going to be a stud. Like, I keep doing what I do now.
Right. Consistently.
Consistently doing what I do.
Yeah.
Think about 5 more years of podcast dropping every single Monday. 5 more years of reading 2 books every single week. 5 more years of doing all these things. Stay in the course. I look from a financial state, the way that the company's moving. 5 years, Dane in 5 years has a jet. Dane has anything that he wants. Like, easy.
Right.
Mathematically, it works. And that's the other thing is what a lot of people, when they talk about, like, oh, I look up to my future self, blah, blah, blah. I go, what do you do on a day-to-day to make that a reality?
Right.
And they don't have a fucking answer for it.
Well, and the other thing that I've said is if you don't take your time and your talents to create the life that you can't wait to wake up to, someone will hire you to create theirs. And I've said that on my Instagram channel. I've said it, I don't know how many times on this podcast, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got to quiet out all that noise, right? Because there's going to be noise, and there's going to be people who are going to throw stones at what it is you're trying to do, and they're going to throw stones at, you know, your work ethic and what you're putting your time into. And at the end of the day, it's the life that you want to live, the one that you can't wait to wake up to. And that is where you have to put your time and your talents. Yep. And that and your research, and that could be your money.
Yeah.
You know, because if not, now here, if you're the type of person who's cool, hey, I'll get up, I'll punch my clock, I'll go to work, I'll go home, and I'll put my head on the pillow, and I don't have to worry about shit. Now, there is something to say for that.
Sometimes, like, my wife and I talk about this a lot, and I'm like, ultimately, like, going through life, like, what I thrive for every day and what I strive to do is I want a story that someone would read. Ultimately, like, I don't want this life that I was given to be wasted. It's something that I know that I was put here for a reason, and I know that I have a purpose in what I do every day. And it's like, I feel like I get to change a lot of people's lives around me. I feel that, I mean, we're very heavily involved in a lot of nonprofits around here. We get to do a lot of things.
I got 2 501c3s.
So it's like, we get to do a lot to move the needle forward, but like ultimately, like, I'm working on writing a book right now, and it's something I work on. I spend a lot of my time on right now. But I tell my wife, like, one day the podcast and all these other things that we're going to be gone. And I tell her, I was like, the coolest thing's going to be is we're going to have kids, and we're going to have something that they can look back and they can see the evolution of all of it.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, and that's why, so like when I sold Core Physical Therapy, I thought I was burnt out of treating patients. Right? That's what, I was just so drained and burnt out. And I thought, man, I don't want to treat another patient ever again. And it wasn't the treating patients that I was burnt out on. It was everything that surrounded treating patients. It was, you know, dealing with employees. It was the insurance companies. I mean, now I'm kind of like, I think the insurance companies' jobs are to get you to fucking quit and do exactly what I did. But I come to find out, and when I'm the happiest is when I am taking care of somebody, when I am, whether it be training an athlete and helping them get from point A to point B and help them reach a physical goal, or help them reach a mental goal, or taking a Dane Moss and helping him reach a physical and or mental goal, and being able to walk through that process with them. And I've started to realize I was never burnt out of treating patients. That's exactly what I love doing, right? It was everything that surrounded it. And I don't regret selling the business. I don't.
And as I've scaled, there's been times that like I've sat at home, I've laid in my bed, I'm like, I was burnt out. Like, it was burnt out that there's days that you have to play a therapist and you have to talk through someone on all these personal problems and everything. And it's like, and as I started multiplying people, that it was those things multiplied too.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And of course, anytime that a company scales, they think that you're just printing money at home. And I'm like, as the business was scaling, like, I knew I was buying market share. I knew I was doing all these things, and I was losing my ass. Like, there was a point that I was losing the peak of my biggest loss, which just isn't something like I ever talked to people about. I was losing $150,000 a month. We had parted ways with some big accounts, and we went to negotiation. They tried to come at us to negotiate, and they thought that they leveraged us, which they did. But
you weren't going to let them know it.
I wasn't going to let them know it, and I wasn't going to fold. And I went to these tables, and my brother's like, "What are you doing?" I go, change the way we do business now. It changes the trajectory of what we do forever. I go, I hold strong in these rooms now. I go, and he goes, this will put us under money-wise. I go, there's a plan for all of it. I go, we'll be just fine. I go, we run the course, and I go, we stay the course of what we do. I go, and it's always worked out. Right now, we make more money than we ever have. And
Right.
we parted directions hard. And at that time, we're losing money. So I come to my brother and I say, hey, we're opening up a second location. We're going to put in a sales office. We're going to do all these things. He's like, oh, this is our time to double down.
Hey, I had that conversation with my wife the other day because she was looking at some of these other trainers online, and she's like, maybe you should decrease what you're charging. I said, no fucking chance will I do that. I said, I've been a physical therapist for 20 years. I'm as knowledgeable as anyone. And if somebody else wants to go someplace for cheaper, knock your lights out. It doesn't matter to me. I'm here. When you're coming to me, you are not coming to me to just get bigger, faster, stronger. That is not, anybody can do that, Dane. You can make someone bigger, faster, and stronger. Okay? Yeah. You are coming to me to do that, but you're also coming to me so that you can stay healthy. You could stay on the court, the field, whatever. You're coming to me for injury prevention, for quality of movement, for, all kinds of different things that, I'm sorry, without my background, you're not going to be able to pick up on that shit.
You think somebody that trains Patrick Mahomes is cheap?
Right.
You think so? It's like I tell people all the time, there's levels to the game, and it's like the levels that you get to play. When you level up, you get to deem a different price tag. So it's like, what deems you, like you said, I've worked out my whole life. I could sit there and I could tell someone how to lift. I could sit there and coach somebody in the gym. I sit there and look at half these fucking trainers that have jobs. And I'm like, wild to me. Like, blows my fucking mind. Like, but
Dang, that is, it's funny you say that because I told Michelle when I started this core personal training, I said, there are people making a ton of fucking money with zero skill set. Zero.
I deal with the same thing in the marketing world. I have people that are like, well, I do social media, blah, blah, blah. I pay some girl or guy right out of college and I pay them $400 a month and they have a marketing company. I go, they don't have a marketing company. I go, they have 5 accounts and they make a couple grand a month. And I'm like, just to survive, to pay for their apartment. And I go, they're not a creative. They sit there and they just chat GPT your posts. They throw them up and I go, it looks like shit. And that's why you have no engagement. I go, you have no direction in what you're doing. So it's the same thing. If we have no direction and no outcome of what we're doing, there's people that can sit there and you can pay X amount of dollars for an hour to get some bullshit person to sit there and say, hey, you're doing a good job. You get 5 more push-ups. You're doing good.
Oh, dang. I got a video the other day, and it was showing a guy doing these hamstring exercises, and one of the coaches had sent me the video, and he was just asking the question, and I'm like, under no circumstances would I ever train our athletes' hamstrings the way this guy's trained. He had this great Instagram post, this fantastic, video, audio, the whole deal. Okay. On the video, there's no credentials on who the guy is, where he's from, what's his background. But I'm watching this video and one of the coaches had sent it to me and I'm like, fuck no, I'm not I would never, ever do that. I would, under no circumstances would I ever do what he's doing. I do not think at all that's going to help us. Because I'm really funny, particularly about hamstring and how I train hamstring and how I train core. There's just a certain way that I like to do it from an injury prevention standpoint. It has served us well for 5 years. And I'm like, I don't mind adding to it certain things, but some of them I'm just like, absolutely not. I'm so totally. And then, when you start reading research about some of this stuff, you're like, there's no statistical significance to anything that this guy says. Yeah. None. Zero. No. And so why am I going to incorporate that into my training? Why would I do that? When I was at Rockhurst, the edict of Rockhurst Physical Therapy, evidence-based, 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 evidence-based. Okay. So don't come to me and say, oh, I have this fantastic training program That's like, sure, I listened to Feed the Cats, and I told Coach Simone, I honestly would like to implement what this guy says, but we have to do our own study if we're going to do it, because this guy has nothing to back what he's saying works.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. And so if we're going to do it, we have to gather and collect data and say this does work or no, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And I think what's unique about your industry is most people just look at someone that there are some people that are just gifted with crazy physiques, or they get all sauced up and they get an Instagram following and they're like, this is what you need to do. And I'm like, that doesn't give you the credentials to tell people how to train.
Here, I said it to Michelle. I said, Michelle, people will look at someone on Instagram with a six-pack and then follow him as Gospel of Paul.
Yep.
Follow him as Gospel of Paul. I'm like, I told her, I said, I know two guys that do nothing but fucking get baked all day long, eat terribly, and if they take their shirts off, they're fucking ripped. I mean, you could see 8 abs in their stomach, and they've had six-packs their entire life. I said, so you're going to put them two guys on Instagram, and they could talk motherfuckers into following them and doing what they say to do to get their six-pack.
Yeah.
Okay? But they just genetically have the six-pack.
Yep. And there's some people, and it's not to fault it either, but it's like there's also some people that are so far out of shape that I don't think should be trainers at all. Like there's people I see that are training, and I'm like, I run ads and stuff. Like, would you trust a 600-pound trainer? Like, do you need to be the fittest person in the room? No, but it's like, you need to follow what you preach. So if some person, I've literally seen trainers stand there with the biggest beer bellies I've ever seen, like sitting there coaching or telling somebody what to do. And I'm like, you're not really probably the definition of discipline and everything right here in front of what you're trying to sell.
You're not. And I get what you're saying. And here, if I take my shirt off in front of 10 other trainers, there may be half of them that look significantly better than me, right? But the thing that also I think draws people to me is that, you know what? I'm human. I fuck up. I make bad decisions from a health standpoint as far as like what I eat. Last Saturday night, I was at my nephew's graduation party. I got absolutely hammered. Okay. But you know what? I want those type of people coming to me, and I want them to feel comfortable that they could say, hey, Frank, and here, like I have one girl that signed up for the online training. She's like, I eat gummies every single night. What the hell am I going to do? She's like, I'm starving after I eat these damn things. I'm like, okay, great. This is what we'll do. And we troubleshoot it for her, right? I want them to feel comfortable coming to me like, hey, Frank's, he's a real person. He struggles with the exact same shit that I struggle with, and he gets it.
Which, and to my point on a lot of it is fitness. When I go to the gym, like I don't go to the gym trying to be the fittest guy in the room anymore. There was a day and age that was me, that my identity was me in the gym. That's where I have a very addictive personality, and when I get sucked into something, I go 200%.
Right.
And that's what I used to, when Dalton and I were in college, I mean, we ate chicken and rice all the time, and like I didn't have money to eat out.
Sustainable.
And it was just like, that's how we ate, and we were in great shape, and me being able to take my shirt off all the time. Like you meet people that met me early days in college, like I never wore a shirt. Like if we were at a party, my shirt was coming off, and I was like, I was a huge douche, but it was like whatever.
Right.
But it was just like, my identity was me being in good shape. As I still go to the gym, very active, but I go to the gym for a mental state of what I need, but it's also I've had conversations with guys at the gym, and they're like, it's like, dude, you're in here all the time. Like if you really cleaned up your diet and you stopped drinking, like you could be a tank in here, like blah blah. I'm like, that's not something, like I like physically just being healthy, being able to do what I want. Like I mean, 2 years ago I came off the couch and ran a half marathon.
Right.
Like I've always been active enough to do anything I want to do. And if you could tell, I do like drinking bourbon and stuff too, but it's like I'm at business things almost every single night. Last night I was out at the Corn Ferry golf tournament, up in the VIP champions tent and everything, networking with business owners, drinking beers and stuff. And then it's like tonight I have more. I'm networking every night. I'm in all these different private clubs where it's like I've talked with trainers like, you need to stop drinking. You need to eat this, this, and this. I'm like, I'm not going to Capitol Grill for a business dinner being like, yeah, I want chicken and some fucking green beans.
Right.
I'm like, I'll eat a filet and something else. Like I eat pretty well when I'm there, but I'm like, I'm going to have a Stoli Doli. I'm going to have an old fashioned. I'm going to do those things. And I'm like, and I tell people like quality of life or whatever you're looking for is solely something that it's what it looks like for you in your head.
Well, and at the end of the day, so I have clients that had open heart surgery, and obviously his goal is way different than the 35-year-old who doesn't have many health issues. So you're working, you're doing different things with them, and their demands from the program are totally different.
For sure.
Based on what it is they want to achieve. But for me personally, like, here, do I give a shit if I have a six-pack? No. Do I want my stomach to be flat? Yeah, I do. I want my stomach to be flat. I don't care if I have a six-pack. Do I want to feel good mentally, physically? Right? So that's the whole purpose of what I do was connecting the dots between how you look and how you feel, right? Like orthopedic pain and mental pain, and how what you eat and what you do affects both of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's ultimately what I decided to start doing, right? And it was crazy how it happened, because I had two friends had exacerbations in depression, right? Like significant depression. They went into inpatient rehabs. One of them was on one side of the country and one of them was on the other side of the country, but both facilities did the exact same thing. And I was like, that's when I started down this rabbit hole, right? And I'm like, why would they do that, right? Why would both facilities, from a dietary standpoint, do the exact same thing with depressed people? And then you start looking, okay, well, what you eat, okay, there's certain foods won't allow your body to produce any serotonin. If you don't have any serotonin, that's the happy hormone or neurotransmitter. It functions as both. Okay. All right. So there's the depression / anxiety component. These foods boost your inflammation markers through the fucking roof. Okay. There's your chronic pain people. Then you tie it even further and you find out that the chronic pain pathway to the brain connects to the frontal lobe, which is the emotion center. And so now I have all this going on. It's like, okay, chronic pain affects mood. What you eat affects mood. What you eat affects your pain. And all of this, and I'm like, all right, so here, I'm a guy at the time, I've had 10 orthopedic surgeries. I wake up every day. My body is fucking killing me. Every single day, I have to wonder, is this the day that my back's going to fucking lock up again? And you know what I mean? You're afraid to sit down and go to the bathroom in the morning. You're afraid to move, and I'm like, what the fuck do I have to lose? Let's try it,
Yeah.
And go ahead.
And my thing to a physical side of thing and like to the emotional side of things, the best shape I was ever in my life was the worst mental state I was ever in my life.
Could be.
It was
because if you're like dropping your body fat too low, like those people on them shows, there's a huge psychological component to those folks. They're fucking miserable.
I was miserable in the life I was living. I had, most people thought when I was in great shape, I had the vehicle, I had the girlfriend, all this stuff, but it was like, I was miserable.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was. I was lost. And it was like, I think so many people from the outside in looking like, oh, you got it all figured out. And I didn't feel like my head could hold its own in a room. If that made sense.
Sure.
So I felt like I had all these things I was trying to kind of compensate for, like this. I didn't know how to navigate that well in a room. I felt like I was going to get caught off. Like I didn't feel like I ever had
You didn't have confidence.
It was like the confidence just wasn't there. And it was all the markers, like everyone that knew me was like, dude, he's like the most confident person you're going to meet. And I was like, realistically, it was a very false narrative of confidence.
Sure.
But as I progressed and like when I got into business, I feel like this is where I've really truly found my confidence, and I've truly found who I am as a person. And once that like kind of set in, like me being in shape, like doesn't identify who I am. It's like the vehicles, all the other stuff. Like my head carries me for who I am now, and I want to become healthier. Like that is something that's on my docket, but it's trying to navigate the right way.
It took me a while so I would have friends bust my chops and be like, keep working out, fat ass. Because I would work out like a savage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't have the greatest physique. You understand what I'm saying?
For sure.
And at the end of the day, having a good physique wasn't a good enough motivation for me to change my diet.
Yeah.
I'm like, I really don't give a fuck. I'm working out. I feel good. I really don't care. But then it was like, okay, back surgery, 5 shoulder surgeries, hip arthritis. Okay. And then you start waking up and you start having pain. And so how I felt is what drove me to change how I ate. It wasn't how I looked.
Yeah. And ultimately, like right now, I've changed some things and I'm trying to change more things, but it's not from a look perspective. It's when I hit a certain weight, my feet hurt. And it's like, as stupid and silly as that seems, like I don't feel like 30 years old, I just wake up, my feet hurt.
Right.
Like, and I know pretty much the weight point of where it comes at. And it's like, to where it's, do I need to change some things? 100%. Like I'm not like oblivious to it, but it's also people that know me know that like something I work on very heavily is how do I use this addictive personality in multiple directions. So like yesterday as a whole company, we're talking about doing a company, High Rocks in Dallas, and all of us training together for it. But it's, I need something to go after in that line that I can get addicted to. That it's like when I did the half marathon, I went and did that, and it just kind of in my face about how out of shape I was.
Dude, when I was 30, I'd leave the gym and go to Wendy's.
Yeah.
I would go to North Kansas City. What the hell's the place off of Armour Road, that gym? Is it North Kansas City Community Center?
The YMCA?
It's YMCA now.
Over
it used to be, it's a YMCA. I used to leave there. I'd go work out like an animal, and I would go to Wendy's, and I would get a triple with fries and nuggets, and I would eat that shit on the way home, and then I would have a bowl of cereal before I went to bed, and like without breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was just, it's going to catch up with you. Is what I'm going to tell you.
I will say, I don't really eat fast food. Like, so it's not like, if I go pick up food somewhere, like I'll eat Hawaiian Bros, like chicken rice, like I'll eat Chipotle, chicken rice. Like I'm going to say where I know my biggest fault is this shit.
Well,
like, and it's like, I don't even drink a lot. Like the thing is, it's not like I go out and like, people that know me, they're like, you never get fucked up or anything. Like I just have so many events that if I go to an event, I drink 4 bourbons maybe, like that. Just casually, like last night, I'm sitting with, guys that everybody in Kansas City sees on TV all the time. I'm sitting with these guys just drinking bourbon around a pool last night after this golf thing. And I'm like, just because I end up running, one guy's like, hey, come over to my house. I got all these guys coming over to have drinks. And we're sitting out there just having bourbons. And it's like, that stuff happens to me just all the time. And I'm like, I'm not going to say like, I drink socially. I never drink outside. Like, and that's
you're not going to sit at home by yourself and drink.
I've never drank.
I've never done that in my life.
My wife and I never drink at home with the two of us. And I don't even like crave it.
Yeah,
that's the weird thing. Is like I don't go home like, oh, I'm ready for a drink.
But here, last Saturday night, I said to myself, I'm going to get loose tonight. I knew I was going to do it.
Yeah,
I bet I had about 8 shots of tequila, but that's all I drink. I just drink tequila.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a hangover the next day, but my legs were taking the fuck out from under me.
Yeah.
I was, I'd get up and I was dizzy, but I didn't have like that hangover feeling where I was non-functioning. But I said, I'm doing it, you know? But you can count on one hand how many times I drink in a year.
Like, and what I've talked to people and literally trainers too, and I've like went over kind of like my diet. I've went over the way I work out and the way I train. And they're like, if you just eliminated the booze, like, you know how good a shape you'd be in?
Yeah, you don't, I mean, you'd have to eliminate it for a little bit, not in perpetuity.
Yeah,
But you'd have to eliminate it for a little bit.
And-
Not even eliminate it, Dane. You would have to just, like, I had a guy today, he was like, I'm not quitting drinking beer. And I'm like, well, I probably wouldn't pay me. As much as I want your business.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to quit, but you're going to have to, like, over the course of the 6-month program, we're going to gradually take that away from you.
And it's terrible too, because you also have this like polarizing group that goes out on Instagram that it's like, that's the other thing is a lot of what's on the internet is I tell people, I'm like, people get so one side or the other because they know it drives the views because it pulls all this negativity from the other side. But like the people are like, drinking's the devil, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and they're like, you can't be wealthy if you drink. I'm like, I literally sit with people that are worth fucking astronomical amounts of money that drink all the time. And I'm like, so you're not going to tell me one way or another that you can't be successful with one.
You can do both.
I know guys that fly on jets that drink champagne on their jet all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And they're sitting on the beach drinking high-end tequila. So you're not going to tell me that you can't be wealthy if you drink.
No, you can do. There's plenty of highly functioning alcoholics. I'm not saying everyone that drinks is an alcoholic, but I'm speaking on the very far end of what you're saying. I know some people who are functioning alcoholics that I would be willing to bet if you took booze away from them, they'd have withdrawals.
Yeah.
Yet they function at a 1%. Like they're a 1%er.
And I tell my wife like all the time, like there's times like if I don't have events on a week or anything, it may go a week or two that I don't have a drink, and it's like I don't even think about it.
Right.
But then the first time I'm sitting somewhere at an event and they're pulling out bourbon or cigars or whatever, like
I'm in.
I'm right there. And then, and it's, I hate to ever look at it as like it's a fit-in thing, but it's something I do enjoy.
Yeah.
Like I do enjoy it. And like, once again, I'm not drinking, like I don't drink shitty bourbon. Like I buy really nice bourbon stuff. It's something I like. Some people like it. Some people fucking don't. Once again, it's to each their own.
Yeah.
I don't judge anyone else on anything they do. So it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things that it's hard.
The type of environment that I wanted to create with my clients was that I am going to create. It's not that I wanted to. I'm going to create this environment of, hey, you're going to fuck up. I know you're going to fuck up. I'm going to fuck up. Let's just be honest, open, and transparent. And then let's be able to fix the fuck up because we know it's coming, right? Okay, whether it's, you had 10 Oreos before you went to bed and a bowl of cereal, or it's I had 15 drinks one night and got absolutely rocked and then went to get cheeseburgers afterwards. Okay, great. I want you to be able to do that. And I want you to be able to come to me, and then we could say, okay, so we had this setback, okay, and now because of this setback, we're going to do X, Y, and Z to compensate for it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's I think the crazy thing from a lot of trainers I see, and where I think that you have a lever to pull that most can't, is understanding that lifestyle too that a lot of these entrepreneurs are in, and a lot of these people that. My thing is like I've had people that I've worked with from a training side and I've talked with, and they're like, well, just don't drink at all and don't do any of these things. And I'm like,
right.
My next 3 weeks, I don't have a open evening in 3 weeks.
Me and Michelle, we went on a fitness kick a while back. She had just got done having her back surgery and the twins. And we were like, okay, we're going to get in shape. And the program that the guy put us on, we wouldn't go out because we knew we weren't going to be able to stay compliant. Yeah. It's like, fuck that. Who wants to do that?
And you get diet plans, and I'm like, excuse me,
I'm doing the same thing.
I've got diet plans, and I'm like, I'm not fucking eating egg whites for dinner. I'm like, I'm not in college. I'm like, I don't care. Like, and I was like, send me over something. They're like, well, we could send you over something, but it could get expensive at the grocery store. I'm like, I don't give a shit what it costs. I'm
right.
Like, I'll go get straight up sushi grade tuna fillets and dice those up and eat them with soy sauce. I'm
right.
Like,
yeah.
That's crazy high in protein. Like, tell me something else.
Right.
That I could actually make a nice dinner at my house for my wife.
So
that I'm not. My wife came home and I made her fucking egg whites. She'd be like,
You're
"Are we
divorced.
bankrupt? Are we bankrupt? Did you bankrupt us?" Like, she would look at me like I lost my fucking marbles.
And that's why people yo-yo diet, dude. That's why they fucking, one day you look at them, they're like, holy shit. And then 4 months later, you look at them, they look like they swallowed something. It's like, that's the whole yo-yo diet. And it's because they're getting advice that's not sustainable, right? And the whole purpose of, what we do is like, I want to give you a lifestyle that you can sustain. Now, is it going to be a little bit condensed initially to get you where you want to be? Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of that immediate gratification.
Yeah,
you're going a little bit of it. I'm not saying a whole lot. You're going to still live, but once you get to where you want to be, now you have adopted this lifestyle, and that is sustainable, right? Where you can have a steak, cheeseburgers, fucking. What else do I eat on a regular basis? Taco. You can have those types of things. And it's not gonna change how you look, right? You're gonna be able to sustain it. But now, if you come to me and you're like, "Hey, I want to be 10% body fat," well, I'm gonna be like, "All right, well, now your goal's a little bit different. Yeah, you want to be 10% body fat and sustain it. Your life's probably gonna suck and be boring.
Yeah, I
but you'll have your fucking 6-pack.
Yeah, and it's like I also look at a lot of times like I don't know if there's. I haven't looked into an option of it or anything, but having something where you can have high-end, like diet plans, high-end, like different concepts of that instead of it just always being, because I feel like every time I've gotten diet plans from things, they're just so simple, which, I mean, I have no problem like paying people to cook my food or whatever. My wife's always cooking. Like I'll cook, like whatever it may be, but just telling me to eat like egg whites, chicken breasts, broccoli, like I find enjoyment in food. And it's like, I also want I want things that are good. Like I'm kind of a foodie type person. Like my wife and I go out to nice restaurants all the time. Like a month or two ago, we just flew to Chicago to go eat for 2 nights. And I think sometimes people just, I don't know, they have to have it just so black and white and basic.
Right. Well, here. I don't like basic.
I don't either.
I don't think it doesn't have to be basic. It doesn't. I mean, there's lists like I'm talking about like for our program, you have like a 4-page list of foods that you can eat, and it's like there has to be diversity.
Yeah.
Now here, for me personally, during the day, I don't have a lot of diversity in what I eat, right? Just because I don't have time to fucking, plan.
Simplicity during the day, I don't really care about lunch. Like you could tell me like most basic lunch.
Yeah.
Or it's like I'm either one, eating lunch as fast as I possibly can in between something.
Right.
And it's just something that is a speed movement. Or 2, I'm going to lunch with a client that then becomes a whole.
I get my diversity at dinner.
I love dinners.
Yeah. So like during the day, my breakfast, my lunch, it's pretty much the same in uniform, and I'm okay with that. But like I said, I just think it's unnecessary. I think the whole entire goal is to get somebody where they want to look physically, where they want to feel, how they want to feel mentally, and then get them in a place where they can sustain it without you.
Yeah.
That's the whole entire purpose of what I do is that. I mean, because here, in my opinion, I think you can look good and feel like shit. I do.
For sure.
I 100% think that you can look good and feel like shit.
When I once again, when I was in the best shape, I was lifting so heavy all the time. My joints hurt. Like my joints and my body feels, minus my feet, feels the best it's ever felt.
Well, here, because a lot of the shit that they'll make you eat in order to get that certain physique, those foods are so fucking inflammatory. Yeah. So inflammatory. And so that's why you could still look good and your body ache and hurt, and then, you know, and still feel like shit and mentally. And as I get older, your mental health is so important. It's so important, you know, and I see some of these young kids nowadays and they're struggling with depression and anxiety. Dane, I don't remember dealing with that shit when I was in high school.
I mean, like, I'm not going to say I dealt with like anxiety, or I've always been very strong headed in what I do. And the thing was, like, even if I look back at like that time where I was at, like, I didn't actually understand the state that I was in, but like at that time, like, I think mental health is very important, but it's also like, I think people struggle formulating in their head. I think a lot of people, when they have no vision, they don't have a purpose, they don't have.
That's going to make
like,
you depressed.
It is, and I don't say like somebody doesn't have a purpose, but I'm saying they haven't found their purpose.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we live in a society that everyone's waiting for someone else to do it for you. That the only way that you're going to change the outcome is you. To where you need to go find what your purpose is. You need to go find what you need to do. Put the weight on your shoulder. Take ownership. Take accountability. And stop pointing fingers thinking someone else is going to do it for you.
The pastor at our church says it all the time. It's your heart. It's your responsibility. And you know what? It's the truest statement ever. Like, you are responsible for how you feel mentally. You're responsible for it, right? So if you're going to sit there and say, hey, this pill I'm taking is going to be responsible for making me feel good, it's not. No. It may do it temporarily, okay? It's not. You are responsible for it, okay? And until you're able to take responsibility for it and hold yourself accountable for it, you're always going to feel like shit mentally. I don't care what you take.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean you're not going to have days that suck? And am I saying that people don't need medicine? No. I genuinely think there are people out there who need to have medicine in order to regulate whatever. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, but there is a need for it. But what I'm also saying is that medicine is going to be way more productive if you are doing the right things and leading the right lifestyle.
And today's society, we live in a society that, I mean, Big Pharma is...
Oh, it's a fucking joke. They control the doctors.
Well, also from a state that I went into the doctor, I had a hernia type deal, and I went in and I was like, I knew exactly what it was, and it's like super small. I was like, just want to be on my stomach, and I was like, want to control it before it ever becomes a problem. So I'm like, I just have to go to the doctor to get a referral or whatever to go over to the surgeon. So I go in there, I was like, hey, this is what and then he's like, asked me, he's like, when was the last time you went to the eye doctor? I go, my vision's fucking fine. He's like, well, when was the last time you were at the dentist? I was like, what the fuck do my teeth have to do with this? And then he's like, well, we need to get you in for a blood panel, all this stuff. I'm like, I just got multiple life insurance policies that cleared all their blood work with flying colors. And I mean, these are huge policies. So I'm like, I had nurses at my house, all kinds of stuff. Like, it's not an easy thing to get. And I was like, I checked, and he's like, well, if you want like all this stuff, and I'm like, I literally looked at the dude. I was like, schedule my fucking appointment with the surgeon. That's why I came to see you. I was like, you just trying to make money? Because he was asking me if I need to take medicine for all these other things, and I'm like, I don't need any of the shit that you're trying to give me. I go, and I promise you one thing, I'm never coming back to see you again.
Here, I went to the cardiologist for a checkup. They wanted my LDL under 100. My LDL was 84. Okay. Comes in, goes over my blood work. Well, now the new standard is we want your cholesterol under 55. So I'm going to write an order for, and I'm like, no, you ain't. I ain't taking anything else. Well, can I increase what you're currently taking? No. There's tons and tons of people just like you who say an LDL under 100, you don't need to have it. It's not what you don't need to have an LDL under 100, and it's more of a ratio between, I think it's your HDL and your LDL that you need to look at. And no, I'm not taking any more medicine. She looked at me like I was crazy. It's like Big Pharma controls these doctors.
And
they control them.
And what's wild to me is like people just listen to them blindly. I went to school with people that are now doctors that I wouldn't have trusted anything they said when they were in school. And it's like most people don't know, but I went to school for science. I lived in the fucking science buildings, like a geology degree, physics minor, like that's what I did. And I was in those. And because these people were given a piece of paper, I'm like, these people barely passed. I was like, these people weren't very smart. I'm like, I don't trust these people. But now because you gave them a piece of paper, now you're saying everything that they say is written in stone. And it's like the same thing where doctors now like prescribing Adderall to 5-year-olds. And like, guess what? A kid at 5, they have energy. They're just hyper. Like that's kids. Like that's been forever.
Yeah.
And now it's like they want to medicate every single child that's out there. And it's, I think I truly believe, and it's like, once again, this is my opinion. I don't have the facts to back it up, which I think there are if you do some research on it. But us as a society, pretty much giving every kid fucking some form of Adderall or Ritalin or Vyvanse or something over and over and over and over is, I think, is what's leading to majority of these problems in this generation.
Well, because there's so many side effects to that shit. I mean, if you look at the side effects of all of these antidepressants, fucking suicide's one of them every time. Suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are we going to that?
I took Adderall in college, and there's probably like statute of limitation or some shit. Like I took Adderall in college. I wasn't prescribed it, and it was like
I took all kinds of shit I wasn't prescribed. So,
but it was like I was taking it for finals weeks, things like that. And I remember a finals week that it was like 7 days, and I had slept maybe 5 hours total. And I get done with finals week, and I was like, and I come off of it. It was the worst mind space I've ever been in my life.
It's terrible.
I've never taken one since.
I wouldn't. They tried to put me on it, and I said I took Focalin was what they gave me. It was like, oh, this real low dose Adderall, blah 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 blah. I think you have OCD and you're compensating by being ADD. I'm gonna give you this. I took one time. I told him I'd rather have OCD and ADD. I don't give. You can give me all the DDs. I ain't taking none of that shit. I ain't. And when people suggest it to me, it infuriates me.
I think less than 5% of people that take any of that stuff nowadays actually need it.
You know to listen to my podcast with John Burke. John Burke's a clinical psychologist.
Yep.
And my question to him...
I'm not a psychologist, too. So
I
have no accolades to back up what I'm saying. It's opinion.
Because while I was going through this rabbit hole with food and your mental state and physical state, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a psychologist on here, and I'm going to just see if I can get him to solidify what I'm thinking. And my first questions were, are we going to medicine too quickly? Like, here, if you have somebody who's had trauma in their life, is it responsible to give them medicine without therapy? And my thought process is absolutely not. Absolutely not. You're going to diagnose somebody with depression who was abused as a kid and never unpacked that shit. Right? And so, no, I don't think that's fair. I really don't. I think, they have some things they need to unpack, and maybe they need to be on medicine while they're doing therapy, because therapy's hard. It's not anything different than physical therapy. Shit's hard.
Mass and I have, it's funny because I have, the crazy thing is when I podcast why it's so easy is because most times like the same conversation I have in my house with Madison.
Right.
So we talk about this stuff all the time, and she talks about therapy, and I think therapy is a necessary state, but I also think there's people that go into therapy because they're kind of pulled into it in a different way. And I do think sometimes that ultimately a therapist is paid on hours also, so that they want to keep you coming back.
Sure.
And I do think sometimes in therapy, like I've told Madison, like there's parts of my life that I buried away, that I put away, that I don't want to talk about. And it's like, and I don't think it affects, I know it doesn't affect me. And there's people that are like, you need to talk about that. I'm like, that doesn't defy who I am today. I'm like, I am very good at looking forward of what I do. I know the things that have built me to where I'm at, and I am so confident in where I'm going. But it's like that mental power that you build. If I sat there and I hyper focused on that stuff all the time, I
wouldn't get out of bed every day. Every day I would stay in bed.
If I thought about those things, like that does not help me today. Like
right.
why going somewhere and talking about that? And this is a conversation. My wife's like, you need to talk about those things. And I'm like, what? Tell me the benefit of me telling some stranger all this stuff. How does...
I don't know the answer to your question. Here's what I am going to tell you. I am starting to go to therapy, and because Frankie George, he was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder from what happened with Nina. And I looked at my wife and I said, I think he's trying to deal with this the same way I deal with it, which is not deal with it. And I think it's eating him up.
Yeah.
You know? And so I said, I'm gonna guide him differently now. Now, do I think that I need to go to therapy? Right now, I'm gonna tell you, fuck no. No, I don't think I need to go to therapy. Okay? I don't. But I'm gonna go because I want him to go. So I told him, I'm like, buddy, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna go to therapy. We got the same therapist. I said, you're gonna go to therapy. I'm going to go to therapy, and then we're both going to do it together. I may come back 6 months later and have a way different answer for you.
Which my thing too is like, I haven't been before. So once again, when I speak on this stuff, I like having conversations about it, but I never get like defensive that someone else can have a completely different narrative and a different
Do you know why I've always quit going? Because every time I get done and we talk about, my son and Nina, and I'm done. I'm non-functioning the rest of the day. It drains me. And so I'm like, fuck this. I'm not doing this shit no more. And so after Nina, I maybe went twice, and then I would go home and I would go to sleep, and I would be drained the rest of the day. And so Michelle was in therapy. The kids were in therapy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to work. You guys, I want you to do this. I want the kids to do this. I want you guys to be okay. If you guys are okay, I know I'm going to be fine.
And I think there are some people that just have like, I can build those barriers in my mind really easily. Like I can look and like, my wife tells me, most of my friends tell me, they're like, your greatest trait is you are always happy. Like I look at life as like, life is something we're all gifted. Like you get a day, that's a win. Like the business, like why I'm as aggressive as I am in business is because money isn't, I don't care if I lose it. It's not
if you're going to make it. You can't care if you lose it.
But it's like, so people are so fearful. I'm like, what's like the worst outcome? I go end up with like a normal job that I make a couple $100,000 a year and I have a nice apartment and some cars, or like, that's the worst case. I'm like, still sounds like that's what most people's dream is. I'm like, I'm going to go fight and I'm going to go take on, I'm going to go big. I'm like, but I don't have bad days. Like I really don't. Like I was driving into work this morning, just thinking about how thankful I am. And this like random song comes on that I've never listened to. It was just like talking about like something about like God just putting the right people in your life at the right time and everything. And it was just like and I never even listened to that kind of music. And I was just sitting there. I was like,
was it like Christian worship music?
No, it was a country song.
Oh, all right.
Here, I'll play it for you. I was just like, this song started playing this morning and I was like, I never listened like anything like this. So like when this came on, I sent to Madison even. I put it on my story.
Send it to me.
Yeah. I'll copy it. So,
there ain't no other way to explain this mystery. I was stumbling and wandering through life when you walked in, and I started wondering if maybe you were meant for me. I sent my prayers up high. I guess God heard all those. Every day I call
so this was like came on this morning and like I never listened, like this just came on a country playlist. And
That's good. Send that to me.
I sent it to you, but I was like, that came on. I was just sitting there. I was like, thinking about how thankful I am for just everything in my life. And I don't know, it's easy when you have conversations with people, like you need to focus like on gratitude and the things that you do have. And it's like, I can sit there and I can always look at the things I don't have. And
I think gratitude may be one of your biggest defenses against depression and anxiety.
it is.
I 100% think that.
And I think if you wire your brain to only think about that, and my wife tells me, she goes, that's all your brain thinks about. She goes, you can have the worst fucking thing happen in your life. And she goes, immediately you start talking about the great things that you do have.
I think gratitude is your biggest defense against depression and anxiety. And I think so many people, so even if you look at the way Jesus told us to pray, okay, because he says in the Bible, when you pray like this, and it says the Our Father. Okay, the very first thing that you do in the Our Father is you praise. Hallowed be thy name. Okay, right? So there's that praise component, and then at the end, it's the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours. You're praising again. So you're starting and you're ending with praise, right? And so I think sometimes people get on their knees and they're like, oh God, I need this and I need this. Well, the only thing you just did was point out all the shit you don't have.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean? Versus get on your knees and immediately say, hey God, thank you for my wife. Thank you for my kids. Thank you for our health. Thank you for our opportunity. Whatever it is, right?
Ultimately,
versus God, I need X, Y, and Z.
And I think every time I've ever I don't ask for things. I don't. Once again, the way that people formulate things, people ask for a fucking car. People ask for, 100 plus years ago, they were zipping around on horses. Okay.
Right.
That's not a thing that you need.
No.
The things that people formulate is what ruins their day. People let finances ruin a day.
I've done it. I'm guilty.
I don't. And my brother is it's wild that he's dude, he goes, we're bleeding money and everything. And he goes, you're just not even skipping a beat. You're just good. I'm I go, this is fine. I go, how many times have you been in Monopoly, losing your ass and then you come back around and win?
Yeah, I
go, that's the game. I was if it was easy, everyone would do it.
No, you're 100% right. And I am guilty of letting money control how I feel. I've had money scare the shit out of me before. And I think a big part of it is, I'll look at my kids and I'm and then my wife, I want to provide a life for them. And I had a great life growing up.
Yeah.
I didn't want for anything, but I want to provide a life for them that was better than mine. Now, I also don't want to make them ungrateful.
Which I think,
I don't want to do that.
Teaching people, and I think that's something that's very unique about MMG, and people ask a lot of times about the culture, that it's I focus very, very heavily on the gratitude of what we have and not focusing on I focus on that there's a vision, there's a pathway of where we're going, but how we get there is making sure that we focus on every day enjoying the journey of what we're doing.
Enjoy the process. Enjoy the struggle.
Yeah. Those are opportunities to get better. Those are the opportunities that we are blessed with and given to actually be able to have that ability in the future. To the problems that we take on today, 2 years ago were huge problems.
And now it's nothing.
Now it's just we handle things so much quicker, easier. And 2 years from now, we're going to look back and we're going to be did we really think that was a problem?
I've been there.
But it's just every day that I look at coming in today, this is work.
Yeah.
This is wild that this is what I get to do for work, is sit here and have conversations like this and just get to do this kind of stuff all the time. I have the golden ticket for all of it. And it's not from a financial movement, but from a life movement of what I get to do every day. I hit the jackpot. I hit it.
Right.
And it's so many people, I'll sit with somebody and I'll talk to them. I'm you hit the jackpot. And they'll tell me about the bad things in life. I'm no, tell me about the great things in life.
Right.
And I'm
tell me about your wins.
And it's most of the time people can't even formulate. I can tell you 100 wins already today. That's all I think about. I'm literally sitting in this morning, I just on cloud 9.
I've actually had conversations with people, and here, we could get into the shit that's happened to me. We don't have time. Look at the other podcasts if y'all want to listen to that shit. But I could simultaneously tell you I'm one of the most blessed guys that I know. Despite all the shit that I've been through, simultaneously, I wouldn't trade what I have with my wife and my kids for nothing. I would not trade it. I could tell you I am one of the most blessed guys I know. And I have shit money can't buy. Right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of shit that money can't get you. And I could always go make money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then have all of it.
Yeah.
Have everything.
I tell so many people that I know guys that have crazy amounts of money, and it's acquisition of money after you figure out isn't actually that difficult. Once you figure out how the game's played, you can play it all day, every day, and you can go make money.
Yeah.
Like, you can open up. I've watched these. I've been around the right players, and I've started learning it, and like acquiring more money actually becomes really easy once you figure out a certain phase of it.
Right.
But then everyone else below is like, yeah, okay, sure, it's super cliche, blah, blah. And I'm like, it takes a lot of time educating yourself. And there's not like one piece of information that you're going to find that's like the key to unlock it all. And I think that's the misconception. But there's guys I know that have the jets, they have all this stuff, and they've banked their whole life on making money, and they thought that's where the happiness was going to be found.
Never.
And these guys have nothing. Like, ultimately, they have nothing.
No.
Because guess what? When we're all buried, we're buried 6 feet under, and our coffins are there's no difference at that point. Like, I look at it as like when you hit that point, the money, the finances, that's not the stuff you take with you. But it's like, my thing is, I hope one day when that funeral comes, there's a party there, and I hope there's a lot of people. If I have that I did well.
Yeah. Oh, here, my dad, the line at his funeral wrapped around the entire church.
Yeah.
I mean, and he wasn't a wealthy man by any means. I mean, we didn't want for anything.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a wealthy man by any means. And so he worked 7 days a week, worked his ass off.
Yeah.
Until he died. But, you know, now, does he want that for me? No.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't want that for me. You know, I know that. And I know I don't want it for my son either. You know, I want a strong work ethic, but, you know, I want financial peace too.
Yeah.
So, and I want financial peace doing things the right way,
mm-hmm.
and doing what I'm called to do and saying what I'm called to say by God.
Yeah.
And that's really what that's really what drove me. Because I was just like, okay, where do you want me? You know what I'm saying? Because I tried all kinds of different avenues and things just weren't working out, and I wasn't really fulfilled. And I'm just like, here, you know, tell me where it is that you want me. And at the end of the day, there's also a huge spiritual component to how you feel physically and mentally.
Yeah.
You know, and so when you're dealing with a program that is designed to make people feel better physically and mentally, you have to engage mind, body, spirit. And I should say spirit, mind, body, you know, if you're going to have order, effects, outcome. Because if your spirit's bad, you're done, brother.
Yeah.
You know, and the reason why you are where you're at is because you have a good spirit. You may not realize it, and you may not be, I don't know where you're at from a spiritual standpoint, but I'll tell you right now, you are operating off principles in the Bible, buddy. 100% you're doing it.
And
now,
I've always had, like, and this is something that, once again, I don't really jump into a lot of times because it can end up being a very polarizing position, but it's something that I've always had the belief of a higher power. I've always had the belief of every bit of that. And I have met a lot of people that have hid behind churches that have pretty much, they feel like that gives them a way to do whatever they want, and then they can just go in and it's forgiven every Sunday. And I'm like, I look at it as if there's truly a higher power, and I believe that there is, that's watching me every day. They see everything I do. And he ultimately at the end of my time, he is the one with the gavel that's going to judge
you. Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. But I live my life every single day doing the right thing.
Right.
I also, and this is my opinion, I believe if we're sitting here and if you're a leader of the people and you're a leader that I'm going to follow, I have people in here, they don't need to praise me. They don't need to hold me at a higher position. I want to stand next to that person.
Right. You want to be a servant leader.
Yeah, I want to stand next to that
You wanna
person.
be a
And
servant leader.
it's the same thing that I look to is like,
You know who the ultimate servant leader was, Dane? It was Jesus.
yeah. So I look at if that's the person, like that, I don't go to church. Like I don't. And it's like, I feel the principles I live my life by every day. If that mighty power up there's watching me, I feel like he'd high five me that I'm doing the right thing. Like,
right. I think you're probably right. I do think you should go to church.
but what I'm saying is there's a lot of people that I know that go to church all the time.
And they're rotten.
Yeah, and it's like, and there's not. It's like my biggest pet peeve is when people hide behind that. And I've had people literally sit and like in my office before, and they're like, try to look at me different because I don't go to church every Sunday. I'm like, do things for other people, put other people before yourself, take care of people, do the right thing in the world, and things pan out. Like my dad told my brother and I our whole life, like when we were younger, we went to church, like, and those things. And my dad's like, I want you to experience church. He goes, I want you to understand it. But he goes, ultimately, at the end of the day, outside of all of it, good things happen to good people. He goes, live your life with that one motto.
He's not wrong. He's not. I wouldn't disagree with that. Do I believe in corporate worship? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I think people are wired for connection, and I think one of the biggest things that the devil wants to do is to eliminate these connections, right? Because ultimately, where he wants you is in a corner by yourself, right? Then he can really start to mess with you. And so I think you need corporate worship because you also need people whose faith is strong when yours isn't. Right. And
Good.
that happens in life. And so I just believe in it. Not because I'm going to check a box.
Yeah.
Right. But because I'm going to establish a relationship. Right. And so I think when I was 30, I felt the exact same way. Right. And then I initially started going to church because I wanted my kids to see me go to church. So I wasn't going to establish a relationship.
Yeah.
So I started doing the right thing for the wrong reason and then ended up doing the right thing for the right reason. But I think when you have kids, things are going to, you'll look at life. You hear, I promise you, you are going to look through a different set of lenses.
I agree. And like
Mass
Mass and I've had that conversation that I told her, I was like, that when you have kids, there's a whole different line of now establishing those principles and establishing those that I look at the things that my dad did for my brother and I growing up and like what that looked like, that there was times that we did these things that our dad showed us the way, but it's also our dad was really hard on us. And I tell Madison all the time, like, I'm not going to be our kid's best friend all the time.
No, you're not. You'll be their friend when they get older.
I go, when they're older, I'm like, we'll become great friends.
Yeah.
But I'm like, when they're young, I'm going to be a father to them, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm going to lead them in the right direction.
Yeah.
I'm going to push them to be great.
Yeah, you push them in what they can control.
You look at great coaches out there. Great coaches push people.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they just have somebody that's old enough now that recognizes what they're doing, that they're pushing them to become better.
Right.
Like when I was younger, like my dad and I always knew my dad loved me and everything. Like that was never a question, but my dad pushed me fucking hard.
My dad did too. But and as I look back, he pushed me in the controllables, and I didn't realize it then, but I heard Nick Saban say it. It is okay to push kids and be hard on kids in what they can control: attitude, effort, and response to what happens to them. And my son can't discern that right now. And so a lot of times when I jump his ass, he, despite me being so crystal clear that I don't give a shit about performance, he still sometimes thinks it's about performance. But I know as he gets older, it's going to click and he's going to see why I did what I did.
Yeah, and that's where it took me a lot longer in life to, like, when I started this, there's people that are like, oh, like, you don't tell a lot of people good job or anything like that. Like, it's always pushing to the next level. Like, we're pushing, like, I'm never going to be good enough. Like, my whole lifetime, I never will be. Like, there's always room to improve. There's someone out there. Like, there's a reason, like, you get in the arena every day to compete. If you want to live in there, you have to be built different.
Yeah.
And people talk about getting in the arena. People talk about being entrepreneurs. People talk about that stuff. But I'm like, I sit with people and I go, you have none of the fucking education to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
And you don't actually train to be in that arena.
Right.
If you want to train to be in there, train to be fucking in there.
Right.
You work a 40-hour work week, you just want to tell everyone that you're your own boss. That's not what the accolade is. The accolade is building a fucking empire, and if you want to build an empire and you want to get in that arena, you better be ready to compete.
You're going to get
Because
after it.
someone else is going to outcompete you.
For sure.
And they're going to outperform. They're going to show up every day 10x fucking better than you. When you were watching your Netflix show last night, someone was fucking reading. When you were sleeping in this morning, someone was at the gym.
Can I tell you something?
Well,
I don't get in bed and watch shit. I get in bed and immediately fall asleep. I got nothing left when I get in bed.
So I'm exhausted when I get in bed. I will say that there are some days, like I'm not going to tell people like I don't watch TV. Like I watch TV. Like
I usually do it on the weekends. That's
But
my
it's-
deal.
there's times when my head runs so full speed all the time that sometimes I want to slow it down.
Yeah.
And like and my wife, she knows it. She goes, I know when you turn the TV on, like you've overstimulated yourself for so long.
Yeah.
She goes, she knows if I turn the TV on, that's not time to talk. Like she goes, you are out of gas. Like, cause I'm podcasting all the time. I'm sitting in big meetings all the time. Like it is a non-stop movement.
Yeah.
But it's then in between meetings, I'm listening to Audible books that it's business related. Like I eat, sleep, breathe this shit.
Right.
But it's like, I don't know, most people just aren't willing to put in what it actually takes. And then it's like, I've literally had people that have sat in here like with marketing companies and I've asked them, like, I'm the first one. I had a guy come in here for a chamber event and he's sitting there and he's like, well, we're kind of struggling to get work. And I was like, in any world, do you think you get in the arena and you can beat me? And the guy's like, no. I go, then stop now. Go work for someone. Save yourself I go, if you don't have that confidence in yourself,
Right.
get out of the arena. Why hang out in there just to get ran over? If you already don't have the confidence in yourself to compete in there, get the fuck out.
Right.
If you're going to step in, have the confidence to go win. Because I get up every morning. And why I'm so grateful for all of the things, like because I've been in the driver's seat.
Right.
I know I'm generating all this to happen. I know that it's that ticker that I have. I know it's there through and through every day.
Right.
But I get to inspire 40 plus people that work here now, over 2 locations, 100 plus companies we work with, all this. It didn't just poof out of nowhere.
No, you had to grind.
And that grinded, that education, all that stuff that happens leads us to this point. It's the same thing that like to the side of training, like you have to do the same thing.
Well, at the end of the day, what you're doing.
And we will wrap this up soon.
Yeah, here, we'll wrap it up.
We could talk all day.
We
here.
can.
They told me the camera had 4 hours,
Here.
so I was like, if we hit 4 hours, we might have a bigger problem. But
And you could talk to Tony Cardello, and the stronger thing that he's doing. I've been following it, and it's pretty badass. You
so I'm
should.
building the website right now.
Okay, so you know all about
Yeah.
it. Okay, so how you look matters. And I'm not talking about. I'm talking about body language. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. And your body language, your posture, how you carry yourself, people who exercise and live right carry themselves differently than people who don't. And people who walk into a room and they're going to immediately command someone's respect just based on their presence and how they carry themselves.
Which I talked to Madison about this a lot, which I don't know why people say it to me. But there'll be times like we'll be in Chicago and we were sitting in Chanel, Madison was looking at bags, and this guy comes up to me, he's probably in his mid-30s, he goes, I know you own something. What do you own? I'm in like khaki shorts and a polo. I'm sitting there, I'm like,
yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not people out there who are highly successful and make a shitload of money and, their diet's bad. They're not exercisers. I mean, they're out there. There's your one-offs.
Yeah.
They're out there.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a consistent thing though. Okay. And so here, I'll give you a prime example. Last night I was on the phone. DoorDash doesn't bring me the food. I order the food for the kids. They bring me 3 shakes. They don't bring me no food. DoorDash won't give me the money back. So I call up to Steak and Shake. I'm like, I said, is there food up there? He goes, yeah, your DoorDasher just left it. I said, can I come get it? He goes, it's going to be cold and we can't remake it for you because our manager won't allow us to remake it if it's not our fault. I said, that's fine. I'll just bring it home and I'll heat it up. I walk in there. As soon as I walk in there, the guy's like, I got you. I'll remake it for you. Remade all of it for me. I didn't ask him to do it. Yeah. I just said, hey, that's probably my bag. He goes, are you the DoorDash guy? I said, yeah. He goes, I'll remake it for you. And I didn't say anything. I didn't ask him to do it. I wasn't a dick about it. I mean, my thought was, as long as I get the food and they eat it and the $58 don't go to waste, I'm cool.
Most of the time, though, the people that do that kind of shit, there's people that just take advantage of the system. That same thing when I walk in, rarely do I have like issues with those kind of things. But when I walk in, people will help me out because it's not like I'm just doing this because, I want a free $58 meal.
Do you think I got out of bed and came over here because I want the...
I paid the fee on DoorDash because I don't want to drive up here. And so, but there's people that you see like through and through, and I'll be at a restaurant and watching some person just bitch up a storm, and I'm like, you look like a person that bitches everywhere you go about everything that happens.
Right.
But it's that victim mentality. It's everything's owed to them. Like, there isn't a goddamn thing in this world that's owed to me. Nothing.
No.
When I get up every day, it is what I put into it. Everything else, I'm not owed anything.
No.
And it's like,
you ever heard the Nick Saban again? He talks about the importance of nothing.
Yeah.
He says, when you wake up, you deserve nothing. And he goes on, and it's like, you know what? It's true.
Yeah.
You don't deserve anything, and nothing deserves to come your way. You don't deserve to have you have to go make that shit.
Yeah. And I live for that. Like, that's why I enjoy that. I enjoy going to make something of nothing. Like, I know when this all comes together, like, it's a lot of great people that are in the walls to make it all happen. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I brought all the people together. Like, if I go down I want to go down as the guy that was really good at putting a lot of A players in a room.
Right.
Like, you look at it, Nick Saban, like, he's remembered by bringing a lot of great players together and coaching a lot of great players to perform on a field. You look at Andy Reid, they're not going to be like, that dude's a beast of a football player. Like, he's going down as being a coach that was able to take all these people and unify them and become great.
It's about being a leader, and it's about leading by example. You know what I'm saying? And so, when you say you want to be standing right next to them, that's ultimately what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they see you. Hey, if something's wrong in here, you're not looking. You're not going to walk past something. They see you putting your boots on, your gloves on, and let's get to work.
100%.
Right? And so that's what drives people, to follow you, in my opinion. And so I think the mentality of the leader is more important than anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like you and Simone talks about it all the time with the players. It's like, how you don't want to just be a leader that's going to sit there and call somebody out. Right here, Johnny Joe Rayburn gave the greatest example. He was up for the Simone Award several years ago, but there was a kid that had gotten in some trouble, and now mind you, John was the quarterback, and the kid got in trouble and was missing practice, and this was a kid that was going to be instrumental to the team, and the coach made him run stadium stairs, and John went and ran every one of them with him, and that's what leaders do.
Mm-hmm.
It's that type of a mentality that you have to have.
I think you can spot greatness in that from a mile away. Where my thing is, most of the time I'm running the vacuum around here. I'm taking the trash.
I've seen it. I've watched you.
Yeah. So it's just like, I tell everyone, I'm like, you ain't taking my vacuuming job. That's my job. I'm like, but it's funny. Like, I enjoy doing that stuff. I enjoy us having a nice place. I enjoy, like, there's no job that's like,
you're too good for.
Exactly.
There you go.
And
I agree.
I don't demand people to do things. And it's funny, as we've progressed, how many times I'll like be taking trash out and then somebody will come over, they're like, let me do that. Like, and they want to take it to like from me. And it's not like I'm asking them to do it. They're stepping up to want to do it.
Right.
But it's building the next set of leaders that you have to have leaders all the way through the system. That you can have great coaches, but if you don't have leaders on the team,
You're screwed.
yeah, you have to have those guys that are willing to step up at that point to be that person on a great football team. And it's like to when the coach isn't there, that if I'm saying I'm coach position, there's an offense and a defense that lives in this building. And when I'm not here, they have to be able to function and perform. And then you're going to have your specialty coaches that sit here in this building. And there's leaders in the player group. There's leaders in the coaching group. There's leaders all the way. So it's when you start formulating and you put it all together, like then I have special teams over at the other office. Like
right.
You have to have them all. Like,
right. And they all got to be top notch.
Yeah. So,
brother, thank you very much.
It's great.
I appreciate it. I always enjoy sitting and chatting with you.
That's what I'm saying.
Dude, I said to myself, there's no way this will go this long. There's no, and then naturally it does.
About 30 minutes in, I'm like, yeah, it's going way longer than That's M3 Podcast. Like, follow, share. We're out.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you.